All right, welcome back to our Showing Up series. We're so stoked you're here with us today. Today we're going to be talking about showing up when you get home from work. I mean, how hard is that to just stay engaged, stay in it especially as a dad, you're coming home from work, you're tired, you're exhausted, you just put in a long day, you're worn out. And guess what? You got 5 kids waiting for you when you get home and a wife waiting for you to clean up and take care of the house and take the kids on a walk and bam, it's like it hits you. So how do you show up coming home from work? I would say it's absolutely pivotal that you maintain engagement. We talked a little bit about on the last episode. Actually, Aaron, you were mentioning it. How you pray. Right. Before you get home or before you walk in the door, you pray. You just say a quick prayer just to kind of reset, to kind of recenter, because it's important. You don't want to just walk in and be drudgy and, look exhausted and say, sorry, kids, I'm tired, which, don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of, time and time again. Yep. But, man, like your kids they get so pumped when they're like, oh, daddy,
highlight of their day.
They sprint to you. They're like, daddy,
yes,
and they're so excited. Man, it just means so much to them when they're like, when they get a dad who's like, hey kids, how you doing? Let's go play. Let's go jump on the trampoline. Let's go for a walk. Like let's do some Legos or something. And you just give them your attention. And they haven't seen you all day. Right. But how do we stay in it? As a worker, not to be the dad, but if you're going away for the day to work and then you're coming home around dinner time, you're coming home and you got to show up again. You gotta amp yourself up somehow. You do. You got to pump yourself up to get in there and show up and show out, big time, because it's needed and it's not easy to do. Right. One thing that someone once told me which is kind of interesting. Actually, it's something I haven't been perfect at putting into practice. But when I go home, trying to go straight to my wife, like just kind of like, kids out of the way. Sorry, kids, you got to get out of my way. I'm going to my wife. I'm going to give her a quick, 5-minute. I love that little like connection time, hug her,
I thought you were going to say 5-minute kiss. It's like, wow.
5-minute smooch. Yeah, straight on for 5 minutes. Yes. Kids are just like pushing them away. What is going on here? This is kids. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But actually, we were in a group too the other day, and a therapist was saying, maybe you should. One thing that we recommend for couples is to like give them the first 15 minutes. Give your spouse the first 15 minutes after you've been away apart from each other for the day. And just as a quick, it doesn't have to be long, just as a quick check-in, just like a quick, maybe an unwind or just to kind of decompress and let them know how you're doing, let them know what you've been struggling with, just to kind of receive it and vice versa. But I mean, how do you do that? How do you show up when you're coming home? If you've been working all day and you're tired and you've been drained mentally, and you've got a whole slew of excited kids.
Worship was key for me. Like when I was working long hours.
Worship music?
Yeah. So I had and I know this isn't the case for everyone, but I had maybe a 30-minute drive, sometimes longer, depending on traffic. But I would focus on cranking up the worship because I know and believe that if I can worship him and give him my attention, that'll change my attitude. And these were specific to days where I felt like, whoo, that was a really tough day. I'm not ready for the dad hat right now. I could probably go home and go to bed. But I needed the one thing that could change my attitude, my heart, my mind, give me strength, give me joy, which in a lot of cases, I need the joy of the Lord. So I would press into worship and
that's true.
And pray and ask for the Holy Spirit to turn my heart, my mind, and my strength towards my family because they're looking forward to seeing me. They haven't seen me all day. I'm looking forward to seeing them, and I want them to see that. Yeah, I want them to see that. When I walk in the door, I would work on giving them more than something like, oh, I had a good day. Grant was really great at, Daddy, how was your day? And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet of him. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, it was good, son. You know, and I thought, man, I am telling him something by telling him that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was with that. So, you know, I would do something a little bit. Oh, Daddy worked on a really big case today. I had a blast, talked to a lot of important people. Really short and quick, you know. He didn't understand any of that, but it was like, I'm just not shoving him off with a good, right? Yeah. That was important to me. And then for me, it was, I got to get out of the work clothes. There was something about getting into something more comfortable, something more casual to kind of match that mindset that I want. Like, I'm home now, I'm in the home clothes.
Take off the stress, put on like relaxation.
Exactly right. You know, and I'd get an extra couple of minutes in the room to do that. And then when I get back out into the living room where all the kids are, something I really tried to do was just get on the ground. Something I did with Grant and Jade is I just got down on the ground on their level, right? And I just sat down and crossed my legs and let Grant crawl up into my lap and held him. And obviously, you know, he wasn't always like, oh, I want to snuggle. It was like, I want to wrestle. And, you know, we would do that too. But it was just immediately like, I'm getting down on your level. Dad's here. I'm fully engaged. You have my attention, you know? And then after a few minutes of that, it was like, what's Mom up to? Let's go see what Mom's doing. Let's go see how we can help. You know, so it was just right away, just getting him engaged in what comes next.
Something that I've struggled with. I've gotten better at it, but especially when I worked actually at the church, when I was on staff at the Crossing, one of my biggest struggles was keeping work on my mind throughout, you know, coming home into the evening, you know, and then going, you know, obviously you're going back to work, you're thinking about it, but it's different when I mean, depending on your job, but like at some point, so at a certain level, everybody's probably thinking about their job.
Yeah, it's fair.
And their tasks and the things that they have to do. And they got to get these things done. When you're in a leadership position, especially, you're thinking about how are we going to do this and who do we need for that? And you know, there's always like the next thing. And someone once told me to just leave work at work.
Yeah.
You're not getting paid to bring it home with you. You're not getting paid to stew on it all night, you know, into the evening. And, I mean, it's a hard one.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting about the idea of leaving work at work is it requires a level of trust and surrender, at least for me.
Yeah.
In that I don't need to be constantly stewing about the things I need to get done because we got to get this and we got to get that and we got to do this, and if we don't, then this is going to happen and this is going to happen, and you know, it's kind of like this cycle or this spiral. If you let yourself get to that point, and you know, it came to this point where I think I really needed to just surrender my work and surrender this job and in the outcome, the result. Really, you know, it's like, because I was believing it's all on me.
Right.
You know, if anything's going to happen, it's because I do it. And if I don't do it, if I'm not the one doing it, then it's not going to happen.
Right.
And
that's really common for a lot of pastor roles, especially. You know, it's like the job never ends. You can get the emergency calls coming in. You know, people who still have stuff they need to work through off hours. Oh, it's so hard.
It is. And it's like, to me, it's like, do I trust God that he's going to take care of me? He's going to take care of the outcome. He's going to take care of the result. And I just need to let it go. And that was a game changer for me, just being willing to just surrender. And which, you know, in some people's minds, it might sound negligent, you know? And which is maybe true. I don't know. Like, but no, it's like, it's not negligent. It's like, it's when you can
it's
just
boundaries.
Yeah,
it's
boundaries.
Good. Yes, absolutely.
It's boundaries.
Yes.
And it's healthy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's going to set you up to get home and be home and not be at home and work still.
There's a practical tool that I was taught by a boss of mine, wonderful woman, but I was telling her I am struggling with, you know, unwinding after a long day. And I worked for an adoption agency. And as you could imagine, like, you know, the heart of any worker is like, oh, I've got to help get these kiddos adopted. I've got to, whatever I could do, work overtime to get these kiddos in a family. And I remember she told me about this tool of brain dumping, and I'm sure maybe you've heard of it, maybe not, but the importance of before you leave the door at work, sit down with a pen and paper and just put everything to paper, all the thoughts, all the tasks you didn't get to, all the urgent matters on your mind. You just write it down, put it on paper, and then go home, you know. And so you can almost, if that's something you struggle with, take that practice, write down the things, brain dump all the thoughts.
That's huge.
And then, you know, even if you need to, just for a while, like do a funny act of like, all right, I'm going to take the work hat off. I'm going to leave it here and I'm going to go home. I'm going to put the dad hat on, the mom, you know, the husband hat on, the mom hat on, and I'm going to head home and I'm going to pursue my family and give them all that I have.
Yeah,
that's huge.
That's super helpful.
Yeah, that was a tip I was given too, because the twist behind being an attorney is when I go home and think about work, I can still bill for that. I'm strategizing. I'm thinking about my cases, ways to improve my client's position in case in a particular action. And so I would have partners say, "Hey, if you're at the table, Aaron, and you're thinking about your cases,
oh my gosh,
it's okay to bill for that." I'm like, well, I don't want to be thinking about my cases at the table, but a lot of attorneys do. And so that was a tip I was given as well. It's like, no, before I left my desk, I would sit down with a legal pad and I would just put down everything I didn't get done that day and things that I need to do when I get back into the office that morning. And that was significant for me. That helped me compartmentalize, like, okay, it's not floating around up here in my head anymore. It's down on this paper. I won't forget it. And that was a big part of thinking about work after work was like, I can't forget this. Like, oh, that's a good thought. You know, but so I just get it down on paper.
Tomorrow.
It's done. I'll address it tomorrow.
Yeah, so true.
So on the flip side, I do want to talk about, just for a minute,
Go for it.
I don't want to take your time, Ben, but the importance of, so for those who are on the receiving end of
let's hear that.
Spouse coming home from a long day at work,
we need to hear that.
It is so important that you set the tone in the home. So I heard some stat, I don't remember who it was, I'm so sorry, but it was this principle that within the first 3 minutes of your spouse coming home from the day, what happens in that 3 minutes dictates what the rest of the night will look like at home. It's crazy. And so if you have your spouse come home from a long day at work and you're like, oh my gosh, the kids were crazy, so-and-so pooped everywhere, and you know, like if you're just downloading and debriefing the challenges of your day and you're like, take the kids, I need a break, blah, 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 that sets the tone of like, oh my gosh, high anxiety, and you know, that actually might not want to make your spouse come home from a long day at work. That's a lot for them to and obviously you get to be real, you get to be vulnerable, but there's a time and a place to unload the complexities of your day to your spouse. So what we do, and this is so fun, I think we did this even when we were married, but we really focused on like a welcome reunion whenever someone would walk in the door. It's so silly, but we did everything we could to show the person coming home that we were excited that they were coming home. And so there's something about stopping what you're doing and actually acknowledging, both in body language and in physical touch and in approach, that person has come home. And so it looks practically like, you know, before we had kids, Aaron would come home from a long day at school or a long day at work, and stop whatever I'm doing, whether I'm, you know, working or doing schoolwork on my own. I'd stop, I'd leave the table and I'd go up to the door and give him a big hug and just say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're home, and connect for a minute. Now with the kids, we just like up the ante with them and we make it a silly thing. But when Aaron would get home from work, last year and beyond, he would come home and like the kids would stop everything and we would run to the door and we'd be like, Daddy's home, Daddy's home. And we'd just make this thing out of Daddy being home.
That's amazing.
And we would hug him. We would greet him. We would ask, how was your day? Wouldn't Grant bring you a glass of water like immediately when you would get home? Like, let me get you water, Daddy. And then after that, 2-3 minute reunion, it's not long. You know, all right, Daddy's going to go unwind in the room for a few minutes. He's going to go get dressed. Grant, come help me get dinner ready or whatever. But there have been times where, Aaron would come home and we'd be like, oh, Daddy's home. And Aaron would just like have that look of I am tired, and we'd be like, oh, no. Go outside. Let's do this again. Or if, I'd come home and Aaron would forget to greet me, or he'd be doing something, I'd be like, we are going to do a redo, because that did not set the tone. The Britton family set. We do lots of redos.
Yeah, we do.
And so, we have the person go back outside.
That's amazing.
Take a deep breath, do whatever they need to do to get into the, excited mood they need to get to. And this might, it's almost like, I'm just thinking this might feel too yuppity for you, or just too high energy. But you know what? Sometimes you got to like up the ante and overextend excitement, and then you start to feel excited. I don't know how it works, but it does. So, we'd send the other person out the door and say, come back, do it again. And they'd walk in, and I'll let you add what you want, huh?
I imagine some people are listening to this and thinking, that sounds kind of crazy. It works.
It works.
It works.
Yeah.
We're all in. We make mistakes, or we need a second shot, and so we give ourselves a second shot.
Yes.
And it works. It really does set the tone.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, energy leads to more energy.
Yes, it does.
It just does.
Yep.
It does. It's the same thing. If like, man, I'm feeling a little tired, I'm feeling a little lethargic, you go get a workout in, all of a sudden you've got a bunch of energy.
Yes.
It just
Endorphins,
works.
they start
Exactly
kicking.
right.
Yeah.
So we take the same approach when we come home, and I tell you what, it does the trick. It really does.
Yeah, I can attest to that for sure. I mean, we don't do that. We should, though. That's a great idea. But I can definitely attest that there's a huge difference. And honestly, need. I'm coming home from work.
So true.
3 minutes.
Yes.
Hey, honey, welcome home.
You matter. You're here.
Wow.
We
Okay, I'm
noticed
here.
you.
Let's do
Yes.
this.
Exactly right.
60 seconds. That's all I need.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously, it doesn't take much to change the atmosphere of the home.
It's crazy.
And in doing so, you're teaching your kids that people matter, not that it's so often to grow in familiarity within the home. You see each other every day, you talk to each other every day, but honor looks like celebrating. And why not celebrate those that you love the most?
I love that.
When they come home. So.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, home life when mom or dad gets home after a long day of work is kind of blah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think this is the secret. I think this is the tool you need to implement tonight, right?
Yes.
You there's nothing more special than when I was coming home from a long day. I'm coming up the stairs to our condo, and I just hear Natalie and the kids. There's music going. There's excitement. It's just like, man, this feels good. This feels awesome. It's like they're having fun up there. I walk in the door, Daddy's home. Big hugs all around. It's just like, man, I'm happy to be home.
Amen.
I am. This is my place of rest.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I want to be. And they're reminding me of like, we're excited you're here. We've been waiting for you. There is no better feeling in the world. And I just say, just make that happen tonight.
Yes.
So true.
Yeah.
Amen.
So good. Well, any other thoughts on showing up after work? I think that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was great.
That was good.
If you have questions, shoot them.
Yeah.
Shoot them to us. We'd love to.
Yeah, that's something else to think about too, is if you're listening to this, these are things that we've kind of thought of based on our own circumstances and our own experiences. But if you're listening and you'd like to know, how do I show up in this area, or how do we handle this with our kids, or how do we navigate this conversation with my spouse?
Yeah.
Put it in the comments. Shoot us an email. We'd love to maybe brainstorm, throw out some ideas on another episode one day. But otherwise, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Showing Up series. We will see you next time.